The graveyard of Loroupa Cemetary has become rather popular of late, with people of all types coming and going, regardless of the hour. A fact that James Roman has found extremely frustrating. Between Loroupa High Soccer Club, Lacey Beckford, Melody Mabbitt, and a varied assortment of citizens who James neither knew nor cared about, it has become difficult for him to find an opportunity to visit the grave of an old friend. Friend was a bit of a strong word, James was forced to admit. And yet, even now, he's also forced to admit that he and David had a bond that went beyond the shared familiarity of their experiences. And now, with time running short and the summation of all his careful planning and schemes about to come to fruition, James knew that he was running out of time if he wanted to speak to David one last time. And James owed him one final conversation. This unfortunately meant he would be forced to take the risk and go to the cemetery late at night so that he can cast one final spell before the soccer match on Saturday. Hopefully the idiot Magi-Knights wouldn't do anything this evening that might disrupt his spell work. The last time that happened was inconvenient. Clad in a black hood and cloak to avoid detection, James hurried between tombstone and crypt, carrying a bag of carefully selected items for tonight's excursion. Sirius Lee laid out careful instructions for this sort of thing in his journal, for those with the wit to divine them at least. James, of course, had fathomed its mysteries long ago. As he hurried towards the gravestone necessary for tonight's summons, James couldn't help but wonder if Melody had pierced that book's secrets yet as well. He hoped she had. In the last couple weeks, Melody had intrigued him in a way he hadn't thought possible, which is why he sincerely hoped that she had figured out the complex code within Lee's journal that hides the secrets within it. He hoped that she, if no one else, would be able to understand why he was about to do the things he was about to do. Now, finding David's grave was a simple task. He had watched the procession from a distance, after all. He had even laid a bouquet for his fallen friend after the rest of the mundanes had left. The bouquet was still there, James noted as he approached the tombstone. Several others were there as well, the freshest of which had pink blossoms that immediately identified it as something that would have been laid by Lacey. She, more than anyone else, had been affected by David's death. She's been hiding it lately, using the excuse of the cultural festival to distract her from her feelings of loss. But James recognized that look on her face for what it was. He hoped that old Rogers and Hammerstein would have been able to distract the poor girl from her grief. But James had observed that the newcomer who'd replaced David on the team had also quickly distracted the Fire Magi-Knight, leaving the poor girl on her own to deal with her trauma of loss. Not that James had much concern for that sort of thing. The mental state of Lacey Beckford really wasn't his problem. It was a simple observation he noted while watching the fledgling heroes blunder about. Once James arrived at the tombstone, he draws his hood back and pulls out the bag that he had been carrying. James arranged the 5 black candles in the proper placement outlined by Sirius Lee. He drew the associated sigil, runes, and geometry required to reach across the veil to the spirits that linger on the other side. Once everything was arranged perfectly in place, James knelt before the tombstone and withdrew a pouch from underneath his cloak. He emptied this directly into the center of the pentagram he had drawn, sending a shower of crystalline shards down into the center of the circle. James then pressed the index and middle fingers of both hands together in a sort of prayer before focusing his intention on the wick closest to him, igniting it with a small flicker of magical force. The rest ignite of their own accord as James begins the long litany that would attempt to coax the spirit he wished to commune with from across the veil. Legalha, Motha Hida David, Lagolfa Frogetiga, Nuglefina Honiakawa, Hogdi Hideka de Bunde Hidekula, David Copeland, Kushafidek Fanta Kidoda, Loshakaya Fonda, Druva Nogash. The candles flared brightly, lighting the area around David's tombstone with hues of purple and blue. Colors swirled about James, casting his lean features in a ghost-like light as a figure drifts downward, solidifying as it neared the kneeling form of the former Magi-Knight. The new figure coalesces within the pentagram, and James smiles a small smile as he looks up towards the familiar, if still translucent form of the other former Magi-Knight, Cacophony. James looks up and says, "Hello, David. I'm glad you haven't passed over yet. I'm honestly sorry I'm rousing you from whatever state you're currently in. I just felt like I should explain myself to you before I do what I'm about to do. I don't know. I feel like I owe you that much at least."
You would, wouldn't you?
Yes. I mean, when I sent you all to that restaurant, I figured you were just gonna go there and investigate, see what's going on. I wasn't expecting you to just go out like that. Why did you do it, David? Why did you sacrifice yourself like that?
Sacrifice is... That's what it looks like to you, huh? I mean, I didn't. I guess I did, but that wasn't really the plan. I don't blame Melody for not leaving. I mean, I get people are gonna worry if I tell the people who've been fighting on the front lines this whole time to leave, to run defense. I get it. And who knows if I even could have won that fight myself, even without worrying about protecting all of them. I don't know. Is this... Neither of us can change what happened that day. Or today. How long has it been?
A little over a week, I guess? Yeah, a week and a half.
Okay.
Died on a Wednesday, dude. Wednesday. How lame is that? really don't get it, though. Why? What was the plan there, dude?
The plan was that thing that was there was so much bigger than anything this team had dealt with before, and there was so many other lives there at stake that I thought I've been doing this longer, a lot longer. I thought that if I didn't have to run interference for 5 other nights, if I could focus everything I had into fighting, that I could win, and I wouldn't have to lose any of them. They could still be fighting the good fight by making sure that none of the civilians there died or even got hurt. Plans don't always work, do they?
No. They honestly never do. Well, it's not entirely true now. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, David, I wasn't expecting that to happen. Kinda inadvertently gave me the key to my own survival. But before we get into it, what do you see when you're on the other side? What's out there when you're not? And he points to the sigil on the ground you're standing within.
It's nothing. It's probably like I don't feel anything. Like this is gonna be really hard to put into words. I don't think there is an other side, or if there is, it's not where I'm at. And this feels sort of okay. You know how you can tell the difference between like a memory of a dream and a memory of your real life.
Yeah,
They
yes.
sort of feel different when you remember them. Everything feels like a dream memory, sort of like it was placed in my head, not something I experienced. I don't know if ghosts are real. I think you made a visualization of a copy of my brain? What? I don't know. It everything feels like it's happening at once in my head. Like everything was just sort of put there at once. There's no linear. I said this was going to be hard to explain.
Yeah, that sounds like some type of weird time dilation meets infinity sort of mumbo. I don't. God, I need to read some books.
I can't see into infinity if that's what you're thinking, James.
Well, honestly, I'm more hoping that you can see something about the true nature of what's actually going on. You know, I've always had theories and suspicions about the grand scheme of things, the order of the cosmos, stuff like that. I remember I heard you saying something to that outside giant lobster creature. You said something about the Herald of the Outsiders. What did you mean by that?
You were there, weren't you?
Of course I was.
I didn't even get to see you. Right before I died, the Wanderer appeared to me again. That's who I spoke to. Yeah. Oh, that cat. Oh, I can say that. I can say that finally without being worried about being listened to. I know you're right, James. You convinced me of it a long time ago. The Wanderer is a herald. They're a herald of the Magi-Knights and a herald of the Outsiders. Way back when, we responded to them and they immediately responded to us like it was almost simultaneous. And the connection is that cat. I don't know a whole lot. It feels like the Outsiders came here because there were Magi-Knights, and the Magi-Knights were formed to fight the Outsiders that were coming. Both of those seem equally true. The Wanderer did tell me when it first made our first team that the reason for the Magi-Knights to exist is to fight something much bigger that is coming. A thing that, if we are right, if you were right, wouldn't even know how to get here without the Magi-Knights to guide it. We are going to stop that.
That's my plan. That's my hope anyway. It's why I've been doing this, why I've been doing all of this.
Yeah, same.
That's why I've been doing all this. That's the whole point of why I backed away.
I know that's why you did, James. That's why I've been doing what I've been doing too. It's all
crazy.
along. Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot.
My running theory here is more like nature than anything else. Like, you know, when we're in biology class and they're talking about the circle of life stuff where, like, the animals eat the grass, the lion eats the animals, the grass is fertilized by the dead animals, and the cycle continues. What if this is just that? This big fucking universal, multiversal even, cycle that we're caught up in. But if that's the case, then the catalyst, there's gotta be that catalyst. I think we both know what that catalyst is.
Yeah. But if this is the way of things, if all of this is part of some cycle, then James, we're going to break it. We don't have a choice.
I think I figured out a way. It's not gonna be pretty. If I do what I've set out to do, this is going to be our last conversation. There's no going to be no coming back. No going back for you. Certainly no going back for me. So before I do that, I gotta ask you. The appearance of those new knights, they call themselves dream seekers now. was always really suspicious to me. Especially after what happened to Dean Vulcan. And I'm not gonna lie, I know you, David. I know that me seemingly piecing out panic. You did something to force the creation of new Magi-Knights, didn't you?
You already know the answer to that, James. Yeah, I did. My original team couldn't stay together for you know all of that. And so, but the fight had to continue. And so, yeah, I made new knights. Originally, when I met you, I thought that fewer knights meant that the Wanderer's power could be spread over fewer gems, and that would make each of us stronger. And you were already so exceptionally skilled. The two of us would have been a perfect team, or so I thought, but we know how that worked out, don't we? And so I thought of something different. A new full team. I watched and I waited and I took very detailed notes on every single person in our school, their motivators, how they learn, what they learn best, pages and pages on each individual person, all for the purpose of making a new team. And I found another 5 that could push each other in exactly the right ways, cause each other to think more efficiently and effectively, and that team, James, you have to know, that team is mathematically engineered to be able to grow in power and skill far faster than any just random group of friends than the first team I was a part of. Because that is what gives us the best shot at killing whatever it is that the Wanderer is bringing to Earth. And so, yeah. So did I convince the dean to change the roster for that trip? Yeah, I did. Did I drug the driver? Yeah. Did I kill 5 kids? Did I kill my peers? Force that damn cat into building a team specifically crafted to end his own machinations and plots? Yeah, I fucking did it. And they have every right to hate me for it. So do you, honestly. None of them asked for it. But if I'm right, this is much bigger than just us and Earth. And we're going to end it here. Because this is the right thing to do.
So it is partially my fault. If I brought you in, maybe if we had, I don't know, talked about it more. You seemed like you were so all in that anytime I tried to bring up any of my suspicions, all you kept saying was the mission.
Yeah, I know. I was afraid. Was afraid of the Wanderer listening and figuring out that I had an idea of what was happening, and I don't know what all it can do. I know it gave us these, and if it took them away, then there's no chance of doing anything. That's why I tried so hard to convince you. Play along, I guess. I don't think that ever really got through the way I wanted. You thought I was just blind. I guess it worked. Wander didn't know either.
Kept saying that was intentional. I've been blocking his senses. I've been making sure he can't see me, can't sense me. It's taken a lot. Maybe I could have included you. Do you blame me for your death?
No, James. You were not responsible for that. The only person responsible for my death is me. It was my choices. Everything led up to right then. I should have better prepared for how my team would act that night. I should have known they wouldn't just listen to me without asking questions, without thinking for themselves. It's not what they do.
No. Seems like they just rush in blindly. That's kind of their MO.
It isn't blind, or they may not know what they're doing yet. Maybe I wasn't the best at teaching them. I sometimes wonder what it would have been like if one of the others had been in my spot. What sorts of things would Jasmine have taught them?
B&E and really bad driving.
But I know what they're capable of. I know it so well. It might feel like it's like all their actions are chaotic or pointless or just rushing in without hedging their bets, but they can do that because that team is specifically made. James, if you know there's one thing I very rarely get wrong with any margin of error, it's a calculation that I've put my all into. I'm not gonna be here to see what all of my efforts have achieved, but I know that they can do it. Everything will work in the end, even if the path to get there feels nonsensical. Trust them, please.
You are always the one with a lot more faith. I have faith in my skill, my ability. Yeah, they're easy to manipulate. Don't get me wrong. But if I do what I'm trying to do and it works the way I think it will, all that skill you claim they have, all that team, whatever, it'll be moot. You gave me the tool I need, David. as inadvertently as it may have been. Because of you, I can take out the Wanderer once and for all.
What? Why?
He's the source, David. He has to be. He brings whatever terror is coming. You've seen it, David. There's not just one cult out there. There's multiple. There's cells. They're spreading. There's something bigger than just, some aliens from another dimension are popping into our reality. It's increasing. It's building up to a point, and the Wanderer is the source. He's the herald of what's to come, as you yourself said. If I can take him out now, if I can get him off the board, then how would they ever find our planet again?
Because they already know where we are. Like you said, there's so many cults, they are spreading. Did the Wanderer cause all this? Yeah, it did. I don't think it's still causing it. I think it already set things into motion. They know where we are. They know there are Magi-Knights here. And the fact that all these cults have popped up just means that the Wanderer isn't the only signal out anymore.
That's irrelevant, David. If I destroy the Herald now, he won't be able to bring whatever that big thing is. As long as the Magi-Knights destroy the current threat, and by your own admission, they have the ability to, then that's it. We would save the world from destruction. No Herald plus no Harbinger is no threat to our reality. It's simple math, David, and we all know how much you love math.
Please don't let that be the legacy I leave behind, is that I liked math.
Yeah, and what's the better option then, David? Just roll over, just die, just let it happen? As long as the Wanderer's here, more of those things will come through. As long as the Wanderer's here, the Earth will always be a threat. We take something out, something bigger comes. We take something out, something bigger comes.
Yeah, it does. And we prepare for it. We get ready. We withstand the siege until they have nothing left to throw at us or anyone else. Because this is more than just us. Yeah, we can shut ourselves off. You can save the world. But what else? We know there's so much more out there. We know there are probably other targets. If they pass on Earth, they'll move to somewhere else. We can end it for everything. But if you kill the Wanderer, and things do keep coming through, because the cults are the ones calling them, then there will be no one left to stop what comes after. Because there will be no more knights.
I don't think that's necessarily true. We've already said it. It's a force of nature. Nature doesn't stop. It's unrelenting. It's not good versus evil. Good versus evil is a figment of our imagination. It's a societal construct that we as humans developed to learn how to deal with one another. The chaos doesn't care about our morals. They don't care about our principles. You can't defeat an all-powerful, all-knowing something that's intent on devouring because it exists as a force of chaos. Get rid of one, another's just going to come into its place. You get rid of one apex predator, another just evolves. But what you can do is direct that force of chaos. We can just direct it away from the planet. The survival of the future is pointless. It doesn't matter what happens in the future. Survival in the present is all that's important. We have a generation now, and billions of lives. We can keep them alive. We can keep that going. But those future generations aren't our problem. And quite frankly, it won't matter anyway. The universe is a singular point of entropy. Eventually, it just keeps going and going and going till nothingness. And that nothingness is chaos. But if we get rid of the Wanderer now, if we destroy that connection to our world, that chaos will have no way to find us. And we'll be able to save our people now. Sure, maybe it's just postponing the inevitable, but that's doable. Hoping that someday some future group might have enough power to stand up against chaos? That's like throwing rocks into the ocean and hoping you eventually fill it up. It's pointless, David. It's just pointless.
That's why I'm not relying on the future. I'm relying on the people fighting right now. And if you kill the Wanderer, and this doesn't stop, you will have taken away our only chance at fighting back. James, I don't have the power to stop you. We both know that. I couldn't touch you if I wanted. All I can say is please.
Sorry to hear you feel that way, David. I honestly am. It's ironic that you're so against this when you yourself are the tool to that salvation. You know what the Wanderer did when I told him I wasn't going to be a Magi-Knight anymore? He shrugged.
Okay, James, if that's really how you feel.
That's what he said to me.
He thinks we're all so inconsequential, doesn't he?
I mean, he's an alien from another world, David. Or at least another plane of existence. I don't think we can think of that cat as a person. He's not. He said it himself, he's a multiphasic, trans-dimensional being. Whatever the fuck that means. He did it just like that. Flick of his tail. And he shattered my crystal. I would have been dead if I didn't plan for it. But I did. And here we are. And whether or not you meant to, thanks to you, I have the power to deal with it.
How did you survive that anyway? You've never told me. And now is as good a time as any.
A lot of careful planning, a lot of reading. Uncle Ray actually has a lot more connections in the metaphysical world than I would have ever expected some lonely old man to have. He has a unique collection down in his basement. And after a lot of begging and a lot of bribery, he let me in. And so I studied. Whenever I wasn't out there, I was down there reading, learning about magic. And that's a thing you don't get, David. Magic just doesn't come from the Herald. We have it within ourselves. Those crystals that he forms when he bites us, he's sucking out a part of our soul and crystallizing it as a focus. I don't understand the full process of it, but I've read enough to understand how he's doing it. And all he's doing is drawing that power that's within ourselves out. There's other ways to do it. And it all requires sacrifice. But it works. More or less, anyway. I'm still here.
That's kind of incredible.
You wouldn't say
I guess
that
I should have read him more.
You wouldn't say that if you knew what I had to do.
No, I mean...
He starts coughing and, like, he covers his hands and is coughing. And when he brings his hands away, you notice there's splatter of blood on both of his hands. He kind of pulls a cloth out of his jacket and kind of wipes his hands a little bit and sets that aside and says, after this Saturday, it's not going to matter, though.
Do you know how long you have?
If you hadn't done what you did, less than 6 months. This magic, it eats away at you, and I've had to do it a lot to stay alive. It's not just a one and done thing. I'm constantly having to re-up the spells that I use to keep myself hidden from the Wanderer, to keep myself alive. The energy it takes to bind a crystal that's been shattered back together is, well, it's a lot. Which means that the only way to reform a crystal is going to take a huge, massive amount of spectral energy. That's what I'm going to do, David. I'm taking the pieces of your soul crystal, the remaining fragments, and I'm going to merge them with my own. Using the power of a spectral structure that's being built by, well, the Loroupa High Soccer Club, if you can believe that.
I was wondering what you were doing there. Thought you were just messing with us, honestly. But, James, you should know there's not a lot of power left in my crystal. It absorbed a lot over the last year, but I used it to form this new team, and I gave most of what was left to them when I died.
I know.
I don't know if there's enough in it to do what you want.
It's just a chance, David. It's like, you know those Fabergé eggs that we saw on that museum trip that one time? And you thought they were like the prettiest things in the world, and I just said that you flick it and it'll crack and shatter. Well, that's kind of what I'm building here. A Fabergé egg. You don't have any power left in your soul crystal, but the pieces are still there. The spell that I've been crafting for this, it's something of my own design. I've spent a lot of time and effort on this, and a lot of experimentation. But I'm convinced that I can put pieces of your crystal and the pieces of my crystal together. And using the power of that spectral structure, I should be able to reform the crystal and infuse it with as much of that power as I can. I won't be under the Wanderer's thumb anymore. He won't be able to destroy my crystal again. But it'll give me enough power to take my shot at him. That's what I'm going to do.
How do you know that? Your crystal was made by him just the same as mine was. What's to say can't just re-shatter it? It's all still from him.
I don't think it's from him, though. Like I said, he's just the catalyst. The soul crystal is our soul in a crystallized structure.
And you're going to build it in a different way than he does.
Which means he'll have no connection to it.
Oh, you are clever, aren't you? You can be smart when you want to.
This is my endgame, David. This is what I've been building towards for the last year. A way for us to be free. A way for this planet to be ignored. And you, my friend, provided me with a final key. So, I guess, thank you. Yeah.
There's no real way to stop you, is there? You're gonna go headstrong and barrel through everything just for this one shot, aren't you?
What have I always told you, David? Sometimes one shot is all you need.
I know. You proved that to me over and over again. And it was astounding every time. James, I know that you are wrong about this, but I hope you're not.
Just have faith in me one last time, David. That's all I ask.
It doesn't really matter where my faith lies, does it?
James's only response is a shrug.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I thought. Good luck, James.
Thank you, David. I hope when this is all over, we might be able to see each other again. But if not, enjoy the other side.
Yeah. Yeah.
James looks down at the candle circle presses his hands together one last time. He doesn't say anything else to David. But as he begins weaving his hands together to end the summoning ritual, there's that one last moment when James looks up and his eyes lock with David's. From James's side, the only thing that look gives is one of confidence, of desperation almost. Goodbye, David. Then and the image is gone. As James watches David's soul fade away completely, he silently wishes things didn't have to be this way. James wishes that David wasn't the one who had been necessary to free him from this eternal prison. But then again, in a way, it's almost fitting. With a shake of his head, James stands up and dusts off his legs before picking up the remains of his spell. He has a job to do.